It's a good one.
What was that for?
Probably just some
Yeah. Well, they couldn't fight.
We as a people have to remain steadfast in our commitment to the liberation of Palestine, especially so that the bloodshed and the sacrifices that our brothers and sisters have made are not in vain and that they are never forgotten. Most of us already here are aware that Israel has been purposely targeting journalists since the beginning of this genocide. Over 100 journalists and other media workers have so far been killed since October 7th. However, if you are perhaps newer to the movement and you're only just starting to learn about the history of the occupation, what you may not know is that the Zionist regime has been using this barbaric tactic since long before the beginning of the assault on Gaza. In 2022, Shireen Abu Akleh, a distinguished reporter for Al Jazeera and a household name among Arabs, was killed in broad daylight by the Israeli occupation forces as she was wearing a visible blue vest with the word press very clearly and largely marked across it. The year before that, Israel carried out an air raid on a tower in Gaza, which housed multiple media offices, including the reputable and world-renowned Al Jazeera. In 2018, Yasser Murtaja, a photojournalist from Gaza, was shot dead by an Israeli sniper. His crime was photographing protests that were happening on the southern Gaza border. Like Shireen Abu Akleh, he was also wearing a marked press vest as well as a helmet. The examples that I've given you here are a small fraction of the journalists that Israel has strategically targeted since 1948. Palestinian journalists offer a window into a world that is otherwise isolated from us, both metaphorically and literally isolated from us. So we can understand why, then, Israel deliberately targets these journalists. Their existence and their stories shake the very foundation of the Zionist narrative. While Palestinian journalists have been risking their lives every single day to showcase the world the brutality of Israel's genocidal campaign, Canadian news networks have been shamefully complicit. The language that Canadian media uses grossly minimizes the war crimes committed by Israel, which in the end further dehumanizes Palestinians. These networks have repeatedly chosen not to report the horrors and the violence that Palestinians endure, including underreporting the civilian death count, while at the same time reproducing Israeli state-sponsored propaganda. This pattern reflects not only a lack of courage, but a moral bankruptcy on the part of the CBC, CTV, the Globe and Mail, the National Post, and every other mainstream Canadian news source. They have toed the line by quietly admitting that Palestinian civilians and journalists have been killed, but their honesty, their backbone, and their journalistic integrity does not go further than that. It does not extend to holding the Zionist state accountable for its crimes against humanity. For that, Palestinian journalists have paid the ultimate price. So tonight, we are here to honor the ones who have been killed since October 7th for their courage, their fearlessness, and their unwavering commitment to showing the world the true face of Israel. But most importantly, we are here to draw from their courage so that we can be ever more devoted to the movement and can continue to carry the torch in their honor, no matter where we are. In that spirit, tonight we are going to be hearing from several community members, starting with Ellen. Ellen is a Mohawk activist and artist from the Kanesatake Nation. Indigenous peoples and Palestinians have long shared a unique bond that is forged with a common history of violent settler colonialism, dispossession, and resistance. We're grateful for Ellen's presence here with us today. Please help me in welcoming her.
Ando kata so wakatun zoni ti tin warado nenes mo yati tutano katsan stonser so yera itin warado ni ne yati istan hutsa and what kono waro agwa ko te tawana re na ka so what can you say. So I want to thank you for coming and it's a great honor to be invited to speak. It's a great honor to be asked to speak. I said in my language that before I speak, I need to honor and acknowledge creation, the natural life cycles and Mother Earth, and I acknowledge all of you here. Journalists in Gaza are being targeted in spite of what the occupier says. And when I listen to it, I think of the parallels of what has been done to Indigenous peoples in Canada and the lies that have been said about us, the way that journalists in Canada like to think that they're not biased, but they're extremely biased. And when we think about the journalists in Gaza, if it were not for them, we would not know what has been going on in Gaza. They are the knowledge keepers. They are the storytellers who have been targeted because of this genocide, because there is something to hide. And the corruption, as we have seen throughout in my lifetime, has continued and has gotten worse. I think that the United States has been so complicit in this genocide while trying to act like as if they are not, and that is a crime. All the journalists like Wael El-Dadou, who lost his son, who lost his family, for them, I express my deepest condolences. And in the condolence ceremony that we do among the Haudenosaunee people, we take that eagle feather to wipe away the obstruction on your ears so you can hear the words of condolences that people want to express. We take that eagle feather and we wipe around your eyes as well, and we take the softest white-skinned deer skin and we wipe away those tears. And then we give you some water, something that the Gazans have not been able to have. We take that water so you can clear that lump in your throat so you can speak. The crimes that we are seeing happening is outrageous in this lifetime. As the South African lawyer said today, the scale and the magnitude of the destruction and the genocide that we see happening in Gaza is unprecedented in recent times. I've seen the call for Canada to support the South African case against Israel on genocide. And I say to Justin Trudeau and to Mark Miller, who was Indian Affairs Minister, Canada has a long history of genocide against Indigenous peoples. It's time for Canada to stop being complicit in genocide and actually be on the right side and actually stop a genocide. They have the capabilities to lobby other governments because the United States is blind. They're deaf, dumb, and blind to the human rights, to the double standards, to those journalists who were obviously journalists. I'm sure all of us will agree that it is heartbreaking to see their families targeted, sleeping, children sleeping, thinking that they're going to wake up in the morning, but because of who their father or mother is, their families are targeted. That is a crime against humanity. To see all the blood in the hospitals being targeted, and the journalists, I don't know if all of you saw the journalists cleaning up the blood in the hospitals. Journalists are amazing because they are human beings. And I think the journalists in Gaza are the most courageous people that I have ever seen. They are documenting their own genocide, they're documenting the pain and suffering of their people, and without them, we as a society who believe that we are in a democratic society, we need them. We need them to document and tell the story in a way that people will listen. We need them to tell the story in a way that future generations will say, look what happened. And it's all because of people like Wael El-Dadou and his family who documented this. And they can say to their grandparents, what did you do when this was going on? What did you say when this was going on? What did you do in the demonstrations? Did you write your MPs? And all of this is thanks to the press. And it's a shame that media like CBC think that it's okay to do drone strikes because you cannot see the suffering that is going on. I think the journalists in Canada have lost their humanity. I think the journalists in Canada have to step up to the plate. And as we have said, as Indigenous people who are trying to get reconciliation started, the media has a big role to play in reconciliation because they have the power to change the minds of the people. They have the power to look deep into their own humanity and not be biased all the time and say, this is wrong. This is a crime against humanity. If this were happening in Canada, what would the media do? And I can tell you as an Indigenous person, they would cheer on the warmongers. That has been my experience. And there are exceptions. I can honestly say there are exceptions to this rule. But tonight, as we honor those who have fallen, we must also honor those who are living and continue, in spite of all odds, in spite of all the challenges, in spite of knowing that their lives are at risk, continue to do their job because they are dedicated to their people, because they have not lost their humanity, they have not lost their kindness, they have not lost their soul to this genocide when they easily could have. And so my hands are raised to them for the work that they are doing to bring this to our attention. And it is our duty as people scrolling through our phones or computers, it is our duty to honor them by sharing them when Instagram or whatever decides to block them. It is our duty to continue to tell their story, no matter what. Because we are in a privileged place right now, and we must help those who are suffering and those who are courageous enough to tell the world their story. South Africa would not have been able to do what they're doing had it not been for the brave journalists of Gaza. And my hands are raised to them again. And I love and respect them. I've never met them. But I think what is really important is that we see their humanity, we see them. And the beauty of Gaza, the beauty that was there before it became gray and rubble, the beauty is also from them, from documenting that beauty. And so we shall be there when they rebuild Gaza, when they rebuild and have that right to return to their homes that have been destroyed. So in honor and respect of all those journalists, I don't know if you are going to do this today, but I think we owe them a moment of silence for their bravery and their courage and all the family members that they have lost. So I hope you will join me to just have a moment of silence in thinking about them and their bravery and what they have given to this world.
We will honor our martyrs. Repeat after me, please. Muhammad Abu Dair. Abdullah Baris. Rami El-Sharafi. Hamza El-Dahdouh. Mustafa Thuraya.
وفاء ثريا
أكرم الشافي
أكرم الشافي
جبير أبو حدروس
جبير أبو حدروس
أحمد خير الدين
أحمد خير الدين
محمد خير الدين
محمد خير الدين
حذيفة لولو
حذيفة لولو
محمد الغف
محمد الغف
محمد سعدي
محمد سعدي
أحمد جمل مدهون
أحمد جمل مدهون
محمد ناصر أبو هويدي
محمد ناصر أبو هيدي
عبد الله ألوان
عبد الله ألوان
محمد الزيتونية
محمد الزيتونية
أسم كمال موسى
قاسم كمال موسى. Our next speaker is Fabienne, a member of Independent Jewish Voices. IJV has strongly supported the Palestinian fight for justice and freedom, advocating for the rights and dignity of all peoples. Throughout this genocide, IJV has expressed their unwavering commitment to Palestinian liberation. Please welcome Fabienne.
Merci. Nous sommes là ce soir pour nous souvenir. Les noms qui sont sur ce mur, qui défilent, ce sont plus que des noms. On est là ce soir aussi pour dire des vraies choses. Israël assassine les journalistes palestiniens à Gaza. Israël assassine les journalistes en Cisjordanie. Pourquoi on n'entend que quelques protestations et si peu de dénonciations? Le CPJ, Committee to Protect Journalists, et les Reporters sans frontières affirment que l'ampleur et les circonstances des meurtres, y compris les menaces directes adressées aux reporters et leurs familles par les autorités israéliennes, prouvent que les reporters palestiniens de Gaza sont pris sciemment possible. En d'autres termes, ils et elles sont assassinés. Et en tant que tel, il s'agit d'un crime de guerre, un crime contre l'humanité. Soyons clairs, les 109 journalistes dont on se souvient ce soir ne sont pas des accidents de guerre. Ils et elles ne sont pas mortes en raison du risque du métier de reporter de guerre. Aux yeux des dirigeants israéliens, les journalistes palestiniens sont des cibles militaires. Il s'agit d'une stratégie militaire israélienne qui vise sciemment à tuer des journalistes pour faire taire les voix palestiniennes dans une tentative à la fois insensée et macabre d'effacer les preuves de leur barbarie. L'ampleur et la nature des décès de journalistes et de leurs familles montrent qu'il ne s'agit pas de questions de quelques militaires indisciplinés qui profitent de l'occasion pour tirer sur des reporters. En d'autres termes, il ne s'agit pas de bavure. On est ici ce soir pour témoigner de leur courage qui dépasse tout entendement, de leur dévouement, de leur volonté inébranlable à montrer au monde entier le vrai visage de la volonté guerrière israélienne d'en finir avec les Palestiniens. Soulignons-le, d'en finir avec les Palestiniens. Nous sommes ici ce soir pour parler, pour porter leur voix, pour dire que nous ne les oublierons pas et que leur vie et celle de leurs familles qui ont été si cruellement anéanties ne tomberont pas dans l'oubli. Nous avons le devoir de témoigner en leur nom. Et au nom des Palestiniens, nous l'assumons. Merci.
حنين علي القشطان أحمد جمل المدهون محمد الإيف سمير أبو دقة عبد الكريم أودة أولا أطلاه محمد أبو سمرة حسن فرج الله عبد الله درويش منتصر السواف أدهم حسونة نادير النزلي أمال زهيد مصطفى بكير محمد أياش محمد نبيل آسم
Our next presenter is Dana, a member of SBHR, Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights, a student organization at Concordia. She will be performing poetry. Throughout history, poetry has not only reflected the violence faced by Palestinians, but also the solidarity, fostering a deep connection between the global community and the Palestinian cause. Please welcome Dana.
Before anything, we are children, future troublemakers, problem solvers, advocates, and visionaries, learning to love fiercely and grieve deeply, and pray for a liberation without prerequisites or conditions, so that we might walk on the beach and slice an orange, and take a hot shower and grow old and die before our children do. You were their eyes and ears, my heart and soul, telling the stories that are woven into the patries of our grandmother's thobes and grow in the roots of our olive trees. You remind us of what we are fighting for, never what we fight against. That for each story cut short, 10 more are written. And in the same way that I was chosen to love you, I was chosen to lose you, so that I might speak of the truth you left behind. When it was all over, we could have sat together on my balcony, drinking mint tea, and you could have told me that my love had met you even when my hands and words had not. That in Gaza, every person is a storyteller and every grain of sand is a witness. That to speak the truth, you must first face it directly, be with it, and hold on no matter what. Because there will come a time when the truth will find those who turned away, and it will wake them among the dead. Thank you.
البرش
عاصم البرش
جمال حنية
جمال حنية
آيات الخدورة
آيات الخدورة
بلال جد الله
بلال جد الله
مسعيب عاشور مصطفى السواف
مصطفى السواف
أمر أبو هيا
أبو هيا
صاري منصور
صاري منصور
حسونة إسلام
حسونة إسلام
عبد الحليم أواد
عبد الحليم أواد
محمود مطر
محمود مطر
أحمد فاطمة
أحمد فاطمة
موسى البرش
موسى البرش
أحمد القرى
أحمد القرى
يحيى أبو موني
يحيى أبو موني
محمد أبو هسيرة
محمد أبو هسيرة.
Repeat after me. We will honor all our martyrs.
We will honor all our martyrs.
All our fathers, sons, and daughters.
All our fathers, sons, and daughters.
We will honor all our martyrs.
We will honor all our martyrs.
All the fathers, sons, and daughters.
All the fathers, sons, and daughters.
My name is Sarah, and I'm here with the Palestinian Youth Movement. And this weekend, we will have officially reached 100 days of genocide. And this takes me back to the first couple of weeks of October, when the entire world was mobilized, enraged, distraught, eyes glued to our screens, unable to fathom the scale of violence and bloodshed that we were witnessing. And we couldn't imagine that this would keep going for as long as it has. In these 100 days, we've also learned what it means to be a hero. We've seen journalists like Wael Dahdouh learn about his wife and children getting killed in a targeted Israeli airstrike live on air and remain firm and unbreakable. We've seen him lose almost every single one of his children, his grandchildren. We've seen him report on the destruction of his land with a steadfastness that only comes with a certainty in your conviction and a belief that your land and your people will be liberated. We are not just here to mourn. We're here because our martyrs embolden us to be braver. They inspire us to make bigger sacrifices for the movement, to ensure that as long as we are witnesses to these atrocities, we will not just be passive watchers of history, but we will be active agents in history. And we will mobilize against those responsible for these war crimes. In the history of our struggle, funerals have never just been a morbid event. They have never been just a place for us to mourn those that we've lost. They've always been more than that. Our funerals are also moments of revolution. When a hero is martyred, thousands take to the streets in protest. When a hero is martyred, thousands of ordinary people rise up to be heroes as well. When Shireen Abu Akleh's funeral was happening, thousands took to the streets. And we need to keep this legacy alive, that in death there is revolution, because you cannot murder revolution. So even though we are gathering to remember those we've lost, we're also here to send a message to the occupation. We have something that none of your sophisticated tanks and missiles can ever defeat. We have a just cause that we are willing to sacrifice, fight, and die for. And the children that you have orphaned will grow up to confront the occupation. The mothers that you have widowed will instill a culture of sacrifice in their homes. The fathers who have watched bloodlines get destroyed will rebuild the land. And we, the movement in the diaspora, the people who you thought could disperse across the world, we are in the belly of the beast, and we will strike where it hurts most. This genocide has changed us all, and it's changed the entire world with it. And that's good. This genocide will forever remain a stain in the historical records of the world. And as people of conscience, our genuine resentment of imperialism must only grow, and our genuine love for people, for good, for justice must be nurtured. And this will only be nurtured through community, through sacrifice, and through organization. We may be against an empire that seems indestructible, immoral, and unbreakable, but empire is against a people, not just in Palestine, but across the world, that will never abandon the fight for liberation. And what the brave people of Gaza have taught us is that even under a land, sea, and air blockade, even under the toughest conditions, even the world's largest open-air prison can be broken. We've seen what the most powerful politicians have made of this world, but most importantly, the people in Gaza have given us the ability to not just imagine a world where these leaders are held accountable. They have given us the bravery necessary to fight for this world. And I know that we will fight for this just world together until liberation and return. Thank you.
مدهون
هاني مدهون
محمد أبو علي
محمد أبو علي
خليل أبو أطرة
خليل أبو عطرة
سميح النادي
سامي النادي
عيسى بهار
عيسى بهار
محمد بلوشة
محمد بلوشة
عبد الهادي حبيب
عبد الهادي حبيب
يوسف غواص
يوسف غواص
حسام مبارك
حسام مبارك
أحمد شهاب
أحمد شهاب
محمد أبو مطر
محمد أبو مطر
سعيد الطويل
سعيد الطويل
محمد صبوح
محمد صبوح
هشام النجواج
هشام النجوان
عيسى عبد الله
عيسى عبد الله
فراح عمار
فرح عمر
Our final speakers tonight are Frida and Emma from the McGill Daily, an independent student newspaper. Young voices play a pivotal role in raising awareness, challenging misinformation, and advocating for justice on university campuses and beyond. Through these actions, students contribute to shaping a more informed and compassionate global community that stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Please welcome Frida and Emma.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. For the people of conscience all around the world who are outraged about what's happening in Gaza, checking the accounts of Palestinian journalists to see the latest updates has become a daily routine. These journalists have steadfastly documented not only the horrors experienced every day by Palestinian people, but also their incredible resilience in the face of a genocidal military campaign. As student journalists, we are very aware of the crucial role that journalists play in documenting and recording injustices and spreading these messages across the world, as we have seen through the work of the journalists in Gaza. We mourn the loss of every journalist martyred in Palestine and Lebanon for showing Israel's crimes to the world. These journalists gave their love, their everything into every word, every image, and every video so that we may bear witness. In many cases, they chose to sacrifice their safety to stay in Gaza so they could show the world the atrocities being committed against their people. Targeting journalists is a war crime, and it is unacceptable that Israel, backed by the US and Canada, has been allowed to do so with such impunity for 75 years and almost 100 days. In this, Canada and McGill are complicit. We call on the leaders of our governments and institutions to condemn the killing of journalists and take concrete action to hold Israel accountable, such as calling for an immediate ceasefire, imposing an arms embargo on Israel, and supporting South Africa's genocide case at the International Court of Justice. And for McGill University, as students, we demand that they condemn this genocide and that they divest and cut ties with all corporations and donors who are also complicit in these atrocities.
Although here we honor the life and work of Palestinian journalists, we also call out the Western journalists and publications whose coverage of this genocide has served to minimize the atrocities committed against the Palestinian people and sanitize the actions of the Israeli occupation. We know that the way we choose to frame a story is always a political choice that aims to shape how we view the world. Too often, attempts at so-called objectivity in journalism deliberately reinforce oppressive power structures and diminish injustices committed towards marginalized groups. We call on our colleagues working in media all around the world to commit to uplifting Palestinian voices and exposing our institutions that are complicit in this genocide. The bravery, integrity, and commitment to liberation of Palestinian journalists is an example that all journalists should strive to emulate. We honor their sacrifices and strongly condemn, in the strongest of terms, the governments and institutions complicit in their killing. Thank you.
We will continue to honor our martyrs. ربيح المعمري سلام نعمة
سلام نعمة
أسد شملاح
أسد شملة
محمد الصالحي
محمد الصالحي
إبراهيم لافي
إبراهيم لافي
محمد جرغون
محمد جرغون.
I just want to make a brief announcement that as we speak, the US has been targeting Yemen with airstrikes. This is extremely important because it shows that our enemies are united, that the US, that the UK, that Canada will continue to back this genocidal state, this fascist state called Zionism, and they will punish all the people, the brave people that dare to stand in the way of this imperialist project. And we too must be united, wherever we are. The people in Yemen are going to pay a very large price for what they did, for confronting imperialism, for stopping the war machine. That is what bravery looks like, and their people will pay a very large price. And as we move forward, and as we reach the 100th day, we need to honor all the martyrs in Lebanon, in Yemen, and in Palestine, in the West Bank, that are being killed and that are paying the price for freedom and liberation. We will honor all our martyrs.
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 All the fathers, sons, and daughters.
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 We will honor all our martyrs.
We will honor all our martyrs.
All the fathers, sons, and daughters.
All the fathers, sons, and daughters.
All the mothers, sons, and daughters.
All the mothers, sons, and daughters.
We will honor all our martyrs.
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 As we prepare to mark the 100th day of the relentless aggression on Gaza on Sunday, let us carry this moment with us. We will mourn and we will shed tears for our people, but to honor them is to rise and to keep fighting for them. That means that our community must be united so that we can confront our political leaders and all of those who are directly responsible for and complicit in this genocide. I think all of us here tonight hold Wa'il al-Dahdouh, the decorated Al Jazeera journalist, close to our hearts. This week, al-Dahdouh lost yet another child of his, Hamza, at the bloody hands of the Israeli occupation forces. Hamza had followed in his father's footsteps and was a journalist himself. As such, I want to share with you the following words from Wa'il al-Dahdouh that was shared at Hamza's burial. These are tears of sadness and pain of separation. These tears make us different from our enemies because we are full of humanity and they are full of bloodthirst and hatred. So we cry and we shed tears, but they are tears of humanity, tears of generosity and magnanimity, not tears of fear and humiliation. This makes us insist that we will continue our duty, we will work live on air, and we will hide nothing. As we end this gathering in solidarity with Wa'il al-Dahdouh and all other Palestinian journalists, remember that our struggle does not end with a ceasefire. Our struggle does not end with lifting the siege on Gaza. True victory lies in the liberation of our land from the river to the sea, min al-maya lal-maya. That's the cause that our martyrs sacrificed their lives for, and that is the cause that we must continue to fight for. So keep on protesting, keep on petitioning, keep on disrupting until we see a free and a liberated Palestine. Thank you.
Sarah, could you tell me the fact that so many journalists have been killed and relentlessly without any consequences, what does it mean for Israel to continue to bomb Gaza and journalists to be killed at the same time?
Well, what we're seeing happening right now with the journalists in Gaza is a form of collective punishment, which Israel has been doing for years now. It's not new. It's been doing for over 75 years. What we're seeing right now is that the journalists in Gaza are paying the price of either seeing their families get killed or themselves getting targeted by airstrikes or Israeli snipers, as was the case with Wa'il Dahdouh, who was shot by an Israeli sniper for the mere crime of reporting on the truth of the genocidal crimes of the Israeli state. This is setting a very dangerous precedent wherein the world leaders, the political class of the world, but also Western media is being complicit in this assassination, in this targeted assassination, by letting Israel get away with this crime with complete impunity.
And is this a threat to press freedoms?
This is a threat to press freedom everywhere, and journalists everywhere, and media and press everywhere should be up in arms about this. They should be protesting, they should be boycotting, they should be taking strong stances. However, what we've seen actually is that Western media has been manufacturing consent for this genocide, with CTV, for example, right here in Canada, having an internal policy of not even mentioning the word Palestine. These kinds of policies are actually not just creating a culture of fear internally, where journalists who work in these media conglomerates are not able to do their real job of reporting on the truth, but they're actually manufacturing consent for this genocide as we speak.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk that, journalists are just collateral damage in this war against Hamas, but in the case of Wa'il Dahdouh's son, Hamza Dahdouh, he was targeted in a car with his colleague. Would you say that this proves that, journalists are being targeted in Gaza?
We know that journalists are being targeted, not just in Gaza, but in the history of this occupation, which has been ongoing since 1948. They targeted Shireen Abu Akleh in 2021 when she was wearing a press vest, and they shot her dead on live camera, where her colleagues witnessed everything happen. We know that journalists have always been targeted because they represent a threat to the Zionist entity, which is that they dare report on the truth. And when their truth is able to get to the world, is able to reach the four corners of the world, this threat is even bigger for them because it shakes the very foundation of the Zionist state.
And what is the importance of hosting a vigil in what is the importance of hosting a vigil in support of journalists in Gaza and, to commemorate journalists that have risked their lives and been killed in Gaza here in Montreal?
Well, what we've been seeing, the real meaning of this vigil is that we refuse to be passive and we refuse to normalize ourselves to the death of Palestinians everywhere. And we recognize the heroism of the journalists that sacrifice everything that they have to report the truth to us. And we honor that through the vigils, but also by having protests every week, by mobilizing, disrupting, and shutting it down to say that we hear the truth, we see the truth, and we will continue to uplift the truth wherever we are.